I knew she was going to be great, and I knew that we needed a really great point guard to give us a shot, right? That we had some other pieces, but when you got her, that's when you started to really see that this kid was wired so differently and what she could do. I mean, she makes the extraordinary ordinary.
I believe growing her physical strength and her ability to exist in spaces against bigger, stronger athletes than what she faced in college. So obviously a future Hall of Famer, and has had a great impact on the game already.
The arrival of Caitlin Clark in the WNBA has turned the league upside down. It's not just a remarkable skill set. It's her charisma. Clark is a magnetic presence that keeps pulling in new fans. And the league is still trying to figure out how to handle her impact, slowing her down on the court. That's proving to be almost impossible naturally. Clark has become the league's biggest talking point every time WNBA coaches face the media. The questions about her keep coming. Most try to stay diplomatic, carefully praising her talent while avoiding controversy still. If you listen closely, their comments reveal more than they intend. What makes coaches' perspectives unique is that they are the ones drawing up game plans to stop Clark. They know a game better than anyone, and they also take the blame when their strategies fail, which happens often. That's why you won't hear much disrespect in their voices. They know firsthand why Clark is rewriting the record books as a rookie, but make no mistake, coaches aren't lining up to crown her just yet. Pride matters in this league. Some show a touch of defiance when asked about her, refusing to sound like fans after all. Their job is to motivate their own locker rooms, not fuel Clark's legend. A coach's word can travel fast, and the last thing they want is to give their players the impression they admire Clark more than them or worse. Hand Clark bulletin board material with dismissive comments, and that's where personality comes into play. Some of the most telling quote about Clark have come from veteran coaches with decorated playing careers of their own. Take Becky Hammon, for example, a 6-time WNBA All-Star and one of the league's greatest playmakers. Hammon isn't afraid to speak openly, now leading the Las Vegas Aces. She cut through the noise with blunt honesty when addressing Clark and the endless debate surrounding her.
I think she's amazing. I watched every time I possibly could. And our league loves her. This has nothing to do. We're just doing our job. We're going to show up. Who is ever on the other team is on the other team. We don't really care. We're going to show up and do us. And so I think this narrative of like everybody hating on Caitlin Clark, and even the black and white thing, knock it off. It's not there.
Coach Becky Hammon has made her stance clear. She respects Caitlin Clark, but she also defends the WNBA veterans who tested her the moment she stepped into the league. In Hammon's view, the so-called tough love Clark has faced isn't about race or off-court narratives. It's about competition. The WNBA has always been a battleground, and new stars are expected to earn their place the hard way. Hammon doesn't mince words. She believes it's time for people to stop dragging Clark's name into every debate and simply enjoy watching her play. And truthfully, most coaches and players in the league would love to have Clark wearing their jersey. Since they don't, many downplay her rise or act like her success doesn't impress them. The attitude was perhaps most clearly seen from Minnesota Lynx head coach Cheryl Reeve, who spoke openly about Clark back when she was still at Iowa. Reeve wasn't in position to draft her, but she didn't shy away from addressing the bigger question of whether teams should ever tank in hopes of landing a generational player. Her comments gave a rare, unfiltered look into how coaches really see Clark's value, even before she entered the WNBA.
You're going to ask me privately, are we going to tank for Caitlin Clark and like that? Like, it's not, that's just, it's just not how I would do things. If Glenn came to me and said, Cheryl, I want you to do that, I probably would step aside and say, let someone else do that. I don't believe in that. I think if you get there organically and that's what you deserve, great. I am never going to try to be in that situation. You know, Caitlin Clark might make you want to lose every game, but, not here.
Many coaches may quietly share the same feelings, but Cheryl Reeve's comments at the time struck some as extreme. After all, the idea of intentionally losing games to secure a higher draft pick is widely viewed as unsportsmanlike, and it often backfires. Calling out team owners and even naming Caitlin Clark directly only amplify the controversy. It's impossible to know for sure if any struggling teams deliberately dropped games last season. But what is clear is that several organizations weren't exactly heartbroken about being in position for such a strong draft class since then, though Reeve's tone has shifted noticeably these days when she talks about Clark. Her words carry a new level of respect. What she's saying now is far more telling, and in many ways, even more impressive.
I believe growing her physical strength and her ability to exist in spaces against bigger, stronger athletes than what she faced in college. So obviously, future Hall of Famer, and has had a great impact on the game already.
Every young star needs time to adjust, and Caitlin Clark was no exception. The Indiana Fever were expected to hit some bumps early as she found her footing in the pro game, but as Clark grew more comfortable, her confidence started to reshape the team itself. Stephanie White, a former Fever player turned Connecticut Sun head coach and the league's reigning coach of the year, offered one of the sharpest takes on this transformation from her perspective. The Fever's growth over Clark's rookie season has been just as fascinating as Clark's own rise.
Well, I think anytime you're a young team that's really growing into yourself, the understanding of one another, the timing, the pace, the connectedness just wasn't quite there early. It's there now. Everybody on the floor understands how, when, and where Caitlin Clark can get them the ball, and so they get there.
Among all the commentary on Caitlin Clark's rookie season, Stephanie White's remarks may stand out as the most measured. She noted what the numbers already showed. Indiana stumbled early as they tried to find chemistry, but gradually found their stride. Clark was a major factor in that turnaround. Yet White stressed that it wasn't a one-woman show. Other Fever players stepped up, and the group as a whole started shaping an identity. Her message was simple: don't rush the verdict, young teams need time. To grow. That perspective isn't Hayes alone. Several WNBA coaches have echoed the same sentiment, reminding fans that building a true contender takes patience. One of the clearest voices on the subject came from Sandy Brondelot, the Australian-born head coach of the New York Liberty. When asked about Clark, Brondelot leaned on her own first-hand experience from coaching against Indiana rather than lean into hype. She broke down what she actually saw on the floor: Clark's poise, her decision-making under pressure, and the challenges she already presents to defenses.
Look, she's a great young talent, and you have to remember that she's a young talent. She's coming into the WNBA for the first time. She's going to be a really good player. I know that much. But it's hard coming in as a number one. When's the last time a number one pick has come in and dominated from the start? And I think she's had some really good moments. She had 20 in the first game, and you were able to keep her to single digits in that last game. But very capable. Can't leave her open. So I think the whole game plan's around her, and she's going to be a player that will continue to grow, because I think she's a quick learner. She's got high basketball IQ. So she's going to be okay.
What often gets overlooked is just how much pressure Caitlin Clark has been under from the very start. She entered the WNBA not just as a top draft pick, but as a college phenomenon and media sensation expected to deliver instantly. That context makes her early success even more remarkable every night. Coaches like Sandy Brondelot are sending layered defensive schemes at her, forcing Clark to adapt and grow in real time. It's already obvious she'll evolve into a more complete player, but her ultimate ceiling remains a mystery. One thing is certain: nothing has been handed to her on the court. Defenders make her earn every bucket, and in the media, every word is dissected. Los Angeles Sparks coach Kurt Miller summed up this balance perfectly after facing Clark's Fever twice. While he praised her talent and impact, he was quick to highlight his own team's defensive success in slowing her down during one of those matchups. His words were respectful, but also a reminder: yes, Clark is special, but no one in this league is untouchable.
She's so talented and she draws so much attention. And then, what's so underrated about her is her passing. Tonight, she was able to get to the foul line a lot, which supplemented her offense. But, I thought we did a pretty good job both games on her.
Coach Kurt Miller didn't appear too fazed by Caitlin Clark's performances against his team, whether it was a poker face or genuine belief. He insisted that most of her production came from free throws, as despite Clark pouring in 30 points in one matchup and nearly recording a triple-double in the other for Miller, that still counted as solid defenses, not alone in taking that stance around the league. Many coaches prefer to stress their team's defensive effort rather than shine too much light on Clark's brilliance. No matter what the box score says, it become almost routine in post-game pressers praise her talent, then pivot quickly to the resilience of their own roster. Perhaps the most vocal example of this came from Eric Thibault, head coach and top decision-maker for the Washington Mystics. After facing Clark, he doubled down on loyalty to his squad, making sure to credit each individual defender who spent time guarding her. His approach showed the fine line coaches walk, respecting Clark's impact while refusing to let their own players feel overshadowed.
I think we did a pretty good job one-on-one. They started running her off more screens, and that's a little tougher. Didi's big, trying to navigate all those screens. I thought we did a pretty good job one-on-one. Ariel took a turn on her down the stretch too, trying to keep Ariel out of foul trouble a little bit early in the game. Hey, she makes a tough shot. We forced her into 8 turnovers, but she made some tough ass shots. So credit to Caitlin.
Coach Eric Tebow deserves credit for standing by his players, but in doing so, he risks underselling Caitlin Clark. Anyone who watches her closely knows she's far more than a shooter running off screens. Clark is the offensive engine of Indiana, one of the WNBA's most dynamic playmakers. And a threat whether she's running the point or moving without the ball, her turnover numbers don't define her game. They are the byproduct of a player constantly creating, pushing pace, and carrying a heavy load. To reduce her impact to stats alone is simply unfair. What's also missing from many WNBA coaches' comments is acknowledgement of Clark's influence beyond the box score. Attendance is soaring, sponsor dollars are pouring in, and the league's visibility has reached new levels. Directly tied to Clark's star power, while most professional coaches steer clear of discussing that reality, one of her biggest rivals had a perspective to call it out. South Carolina's Dawn Staley, fresh off defeating Clark's Iowa squad in the 2024 NCAA championship game, highlighted what Clark means to the sport itself. Staley praised not just her competitive fire, but the way she's expanding the reach of women's basketball at every level.
And I want to personally thank Caitlin Clark for lifting up our sport. She carried a heavy load for our sport, and it just is not going to stop here on the collegiate tour. But when she is the #1 pick in the WNBA draft, she's gonna lift that league up as well. So
that's what makes Dawn Staley's reaction so classy. She had every reason to celebrate her own program success, yet she kept the big picture in mind instead of only talking about South Carolina. She took time to recognize the player her team had just beaten. She was candid about Clark's future in the WNBA. And looking back now, her words feel almost prophetic. This is a type of perspective every basketball professional understands. Deep down, it wouldn't hurt if more WNBA coaches showed the same. Candor when discussing the excitement Clark brings just by being on the floor, surprisingly. Though one of the strongest endorsements of Caitlin Clark didn't come from an ally. It came from the coach of one of her fiercest rivals, Phoenix Mercury head coach Nate Tibbetts, who's already had his share of heated battles against Clark. Gave perhaps the most detailed and emphatic evaluation, yet Tibbetts broke down Clark's dominance in painstaking detail, stressing that the version we're seeing today is already a nightmare for opposing defenses. More importantly, he predicted as Clark gains experience, even the most carefully crafted defensive schemes will lose their effectiveness. In his words, Clark's growth trajectory is so steep that what's scary now could become unstoppable in just a few years.